The time is just gone 14 minutes past 8 a.m. We kick off this morning talking with Nadeem Mohamed, lawyer to the Thulsies twins. And we're talking about the deal that was basically struck and just to understand what this deal actually meant and some of the related issues. On the line, we have this morning, Jummah Mubarak to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Nadeem Mohamed, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and Jummah Mubarak to you and your listeners, inshallah.
Yes, Nadeem, we want to talk about the Thulsies twins now. On a Wednesday night, I covered this issue somewhat with the likes of Hanif Hendricks and trying to understand this deal and what this deal actually was. Now, just to understand this deal and looking at it from a legal perspective as well, just your initial assessment of what this deal that was basically struck as far as the Thulsies twins is concerned.
Maulana, first and foremost, if I can
just one point of correction, I'm not a Maulana.
This is my apologies. Just for purposes of understanding, so you say our assessment of the deal. Now, remember that as the attorney of record to the Thulsies, and also a part of a 7-man strong team, any decisions that were taken with with Shura, first and foremost, with the boys as our clients. And when I say instructions, I'm talking detailed, lengthy consultations explaining all aspects of the law, etc., to the boys. And then thereafter, with our elders and in consultation with the team, which comprises of lawyers, both attorneys and advocates, the decisions were not taken willy-nilly. Naturally, the decisions were taken looking at the absolute best possible outcome and interests of the boys and their family. So it's not. So just to correct you when you say my assessment. Naturally, it wouldn't be my assessment. Remembering that as the attorney of record, it would have been something that I would have compiled with the aid and assistance of the team, and naturally, obviously, of the boys themselves. The plea and sentence. So that's just my intro very quickly. Apologies for the lengthy intro, but I need to make just one more precursor to the rest of this interview, and the reason why is because obviously I've been hearing through the media, specifically through, and I say this not in order to offend anybody or to insult anyone, but specifically the predominantly non-Muslim media houses who have been reporting. I want to say off the bat that none of them have called us for comment, save for the Citizen through Bernadette Wicks, who at all times from the onset of the trial has always been in contact with me, seeking my opinion and my comment and information relating to the matter. But all the others only spoke to the state prosecutor in the matter. Then the second and final precursor to this interview is to say that regrettably, having heard the comments by various individuals relating to, and this is both Muslim and non-Muslim, and I draw the distinction because this is obviously something which a lot of people believe will affect Muslims not only locally but abroad, having regard to certain of the pleas that were made. Now, for any person to come onto any media platform in any form, be it electronic or written or radio or television, and say something to the effect of the boys are terrorists, they pleaded guilty to terrorism acts, we've been saved by these bombers, the world and South Africa is now at peace because these terrorists are behind bars. They applaud the conviction and the sentencing. etc., etc. Anybody who says that and who does not, in the same breath, one, mention the fact that he or she is incrementally au fait with the complete terms and facts of the plea and sentence agreement, or at the very least has read it and understood it in detail. Anybody who says that is, in my opinion, foolish, and it would be detrimental to that person to make such a statement. It's akin to saying, "Oh, the match between Senegal and Egypt was shocking," and when the person is asked, "Did you watch it?" the person says, "No, I didn't watch it." So my point is, and that's just a precursor to this, and the reason why I say that is because to answer your question, when a plea and sentence agreement is constructed, you've got to draw a parallel to that of settlement in a commercial or civil trial. I just want to very briefly explain this so that everybody who's listening, because I believe that there are many questions, and I've seen many questions, and I've received many questions, both by our community as Muslims in South Africa, but also by non-Muslims and non-Muslim communities. You have a commercial or civil trial. How you come to a decision as to whether or not to settle the matter, you take the capital sum. You then compute the amount of money it will take in order for you to obtain that capital sum. You then look at the percentage probability of obtaining that capital sum and the time period it will take you in order to obtain that capital sum. If the amount of time and money that it will require to get that capital sum surpasses the capital sum, then obviously it is not a feasible or economic decision to settle on that basis. That is in a commercial or civil trial. In a criminal matter, you substitute the capital sum or the money factor with the year factor. You look at the time it will take for a person to obtain a final relief. In this instance, it would have been an acquittal. You look at what has already been spent getting to that point. And then you consider the sacrifices, the discounts, and the time and toll it will take in order to get to that outcome. And then finally, you look at the percentage probability as to whether or not that outcome can or will be achieved. Now, let me off the bat say, without hesitation, that had we run this trial, we believe wholeheartedly and sincerely that they would not have been convicted. Now, let's understand why then the question has been asked, did we not proceed to trial? Sorry, do you want to ask me something? I'm just
No. I think carry on. I think this is very, very interesting. Please continue, Nadeem.
Jazakallah. Let's now look at what has been spent by the boys and by their families getting to this point on the 7th of February 2022. 6 years have been spent. In that 6 years, you can multiply it by at least 10, because that is the emotional effect of what has transpired. The boys will tell you that the justice system failed them. The boys will tell you that they believe that they were not going to receive a fair trial. The boys will tell you that they believe that their families were not able to endure even another month, another year of them being tortured in the manner in which they believe they were tortured. You listened to Khanif Hendricks, Buddha Khanif, Uncle Khanif Hendricks. You heard his comments in respect of what had transpired. The justice system, they believe, failed them in 2017. The justice system, they believe, failed them in 2018 and 19 when they applied for bail. The justice system failed them in 2021 when the trial ought to have started in January. The justice system failed them in 2022 in January, when still 5-6 years after they were arrested, the state was producing confidential information which was requested 3 years prior. Just on that basis, the money factor, which is substituted with years, that they were going to have to spend to just get into the door of saying, this is what we did, this is our version, this are the facts. Just that was intolerable for them to endure, not because of them personally. I reiterate, their hearts were at rest. They believed 100% and they had full tawakkul on Almighty. Their hearts were at rest. They made dawah in prison. They learned in prison. They read Quran in prison. These were boys who turned away from the Jamia at the time when they wanted to learn Islam. They led people in Salah in prison. They reverted some of the most heinous gangsters in prison. They were in CMAC. They were separated. They were in the school of Yusuf alayhi salam, and they were prepared to stay there because of their belief in Islam and their belief in the faith that they were doing the right thing and that the Almighty would come to their aid. The Almighty came to their aid because through us or through any other entity, the deal that was struck was beneficial to them, having regard to what had already been spent, and more importantly, what would now need to be spent in order for them to be released. Their release, inshallah, is imminent. Looking at the factors, understanding the parole, understanding the Correctional Services Act, understanding the parole board procedures, looking at the case law, the decision we took was calculated in accordance with what was spent, what will be needed to be spent in order to achieve the outcome. The outcome, subhanallah, has been achieved.
Well, Nadeem, what you're saying is absolutely important because this is a type of information that has not come out in the public domain. And more so when we're talking about mainstream media who don't have an insight as to what had actually transpired and what has led to this plea bargain. And we find that a lot, and the criticism of the mainstream media and many other organizations who talk about these twins, being arrested, being investigated, being successfully prosecuted as terrorists. And yet when one looks at what has basically transpired in terms in exchange for their guilty pleas, there were a number of charges that were withdrawn. And one of them or two of them have been financing terrorist activities and soliciting support for a terrorist organization. And for me, that is absolutely profound as far as this particular case is concerned.
Absolutely profound. And let me just venture further. The state advocate has published to the media houses who she was prepared to speak to the actual plea and sentence agreement, I've been told. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I saw the media houses with the document. The document itself spells out line and verse of exactly why they were pleading guilty. Now, remember, the plea and sentence agreement is an official court document. It was read out in court. It was tweeted about. It was heard. Everybody heard it. In order to properly comment on the effect and consequence of the document, not only for the boys, but for any other person who, as I hear, if you are in possession of a magazine, you can be convicted of a crime. Read what was contained in the facts which were disposed to by the boys when they explained why and how they got into the situation they were in. The Pocket Act is a very broad and wide and all-encompassing act, but it is also very sparsely adjudicated upon, in the words of Judge Mohamed. He then goes on to say this is only the second trial of a criminal matter that has been adjudicated in accordance with Pocket, and it is vastly distinguishable from the first one. He goes on to say, having read the plea and sentence agreement, the boys are motivated by ideological beliefs and their faith. But this court does not punish people for ideological beliefs and for their faith. They're entitled to same. It is only when those beliefs and the faith culminate in conduct which is criminal in accordance with the statutes of our country. And even then, having read what was stated in the agreement, the boys were baited, The boys were controlled, and the boys were conspired against by their own friends. It was only by virtue of their association with that criminal that they were ultimately convicted. Read the document. Anybody who is asking whether or not this, that, and the next thing must read the document before they make a decision or pass an opinion on the outcome of the matter. It is imperative.
Yes, Nadeem, just finally, I've got obviously some questions that have come through from listeners. And one of them is, does this not create a precedent in future where you can be actually charged for terrorism with only a book?
The organization or group known as ISIS, Islamic State of Syria and Levant, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the acronym correctly.
Yes, it is.
The organization is an outlawed terrorist organization in accordance with the United Nations Resolution Council. It is a terrorist organization. If you were to go and live in Afghanistan under the Taliban rule, the Taliban are not a terrorist organization. You would be fine. If you intend to go and further the actions and the conduct and the activities of an outlawed organization, whether in South Africa or abroad, you may find yourself at the receiving end of a charge relating to terrorism. It is as simple as that. If you engage in the trade of illegal tobacco, you will be charged. If you receive an amount of money which is from illegal funds, just by being in receipt of money is not a criminal act. But being in receipt of money that you know was from illegal funds is a criminal act. Being in receipt of a magazine or a book which aids the activities of a terrorist organization as resolved by the United Nations Council, to which South Africa is a signatory, it is a criminal act.
Well, certainly,
being in possession of the hadith, being possession of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, being possession of Quran, being possession of any literature of an Islamic nature, being in possession of a flag that says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, is not a criminal act. So people must distinguish those and must understand that there are certain acts which are criminal in nature. Being in possession of a book or a magazine published by the Ku Klux Klan is going to be a criminal act. It's really as simple as that.
Well, Nadeem, there is just so much more, I suppose, you and I can basically unpack, but I think you've covered some absolutely important issues this morning, some critical issues and many questions that people have raised, and provided us with an insight in unpacking some of the most critical issues as far as this particular case is concerned with regard to the Thulsi twins. And we thank you for that. We say Jazakallah khairan so much for coming on, for clarifying the issue, and also providing that much needed insight that many people are not aware of, and more importantly, what the mainstream media will not be highlighting, or they won't, or they refuse to highlight. So Jazakallah for that. We appreciate you taking time out, talking to us this morning. Have yourself a great Jummah, inshallah, a wonderful Jummah. Allah accept your efforts. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Attorney Nadeem Mohamed joining us this morning, and provided a lot of clarity. And with regards to some of the critical issues he spoke about, they would not have had a fair trial. The justice system had basically failed the Thulsi twins. And for me, that is absolutely important, considering what they have gone through in the last 6 years, and also not forgetting the family, the cost to themselves, 6 years of their lives having been taken away by being held in incarceration. And we trust and hope that they will be out sooner than later. The time is just gone 8:34 a.m. We're going to go for a break.